Said new start, new town, new opportunities. Me moving into North Dakota, it was like, okay, me just completely new environment, didn't know anyone at all. So that's something you got to do. And then now moving down here, we don't know anyone at all down here except each other. So it's just like we don't have the distractions. We don't have people like friends, constantly hit us up like, hey, let's go drink in other bars like the North Dakota. There's nothing to do but drink at the bars. I don't want to go drink at the bars.
In my opinion, the greatest thing that any young man can do is move out of their hometown and just go start a new life. Because the first thing that happens when you do that is you burn you burn the ship a lot more than you do if you just move a mile away or move into your own house. You burn the ship and you just leave everything behind. And it's more of a, I'm not turning back and I'm committed to this than it would be if you were to just stay in that same town, right?
Yeah.
And any man with a fucking pair of balls is not going to be willing to go back. When I say I'm moving away and I'm going to go make this thing work, that's commitment right there. I'm not going to drive back 20 hours to where I just moved away from and just come back and like a sad puppy dog that got fucking lost. My balls would fall off if I did that because I just bitched out of this whole journey that I just set out on, right? But the other thing that happens is you get stuck into a whole new world where there's no noise. But you also have to learn new things. You have to make everything work on your own. And you don't have anybody up your ass. Yeah, you want to go drink, you want to go party, blah, blah, blah. It's easier to say no to all that. But you also have an opportunity for once in your life to make everything work in your power and have to do everything, and you have to do something hard, right? Right out the gate. Let's say you just turned 18. You moved far away from your whole family, and it's all on you now. There's nobody else there to help you. That's like a great experience for any man. You learn so much. And you burned the bridges. And there's nobody else there to distract you. You have no option but to either win or be a fucking loser. There's no in between. There's no living at your mom's, but working a good job and stashing money away, but then spending it at the strip club. There's none of that. And there's no, oh yeah, I worked my ass off, but I'm also hanging out at this frat house every weekend getting hammered. You don't have that. You don't have those connections. You don't have anything to fall back on. You have nothing but a clear mind towards whatever goal it is that you set out to achieve in this new town that you just moved to.
Me personally, like when I lived in Alaska, like my mind was just so limited because like Alaska was just all I knew. That was like everything there was just all I knew because, I grew up there. So my mind was just so limited to so many things that I could do in Alaska as in like a business or as fun, like everything was just limited to me in my head. But once I moved away from there and I kind of got to see like all of Canada, all of, like me and you, we just went on a road trip and whatnot. I mean
Right, we went through like every state between Idaho and here.
Dude,
we went to New Mexico, Washington.
Dude, we traveled 27 states.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
We were driving for 60-something hours.
Yeah, I know. But no.
That many states.
But when I moved down here, like my head just opened up to so many different opportunities than where when I was in Alaska and everything was just so limited to me. I knew you were gonna fucking do that.
What?
Doing. And when I moved down here, everything kind of really just clicked of like, okay, now I'm gonna have to get my shit straight. Otherwise, and if I don't, then I'm gonna just be the same person as I was last year. But that was just a big move,
right?
In general, in my manhood of growing up, like that was a big move from just being at my dad's house and jerking off and going and doing stupid shit to completely.
Hold on, you keep saying jerking off, bro. How much jerking off are you doing?
I'm putting jerking off as fucking off.
Okay, but like, bro, how much jerking off we talking? But here's the thing that happens when you do something like that. Like, because Titus moved from Alaska to here. He moved with me from North Dakota to here. But here's what happens in Titus Bennett's situation specifically. You went straight from living in your dad's house to now you're here in the real world. where if you don't make it work, you're fucked, right?
Yeah.
You said bye to your dad. You're not going to drive back home and go back to living at your dad's because you failed here.
That would
you would
be-
just have
that-
to walk back. You'd have to go back in your dad's house and tell him you're a straight up failure and you can't make it on your own and you need to move back in with him. That's a lot of weight for a man. No man wants
Yeah,
to
exactly.
do that. But then the other thing that happens is he touched down here, right? There's no other way to go. What?
Touchdown.
There's nothing to do other than make his own life here, right? He's got to pave his own way,
Yeah, exactly.
or you got to go back to daddy and tell him you failed.
I
and
mean,
move
that's
back
kind of
in
one
his
of the.
basement.
I mean, that's kind of one of the biggest things that really roll through my head is, the parents' opinion on things. Like the other day, your dad commented, just like, "Wow, something actually interesting in the podcast." You're like, dude, that really like fucks up your head.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, that's kind of also like what kind of like keeps me going in a way, because I know for a fact my dad doesn't want to deal with my shit. I mean, not that I would go back to my old ways, but just the fact that it would be embarrassing on my
It
end.
doesn't matter if you would understand. The point is that you should set out to not
Yeah,
want
exactly.
that to happen. Like,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to set myself up for.
And I mean, I love my parents, but like they've constantly been like, they're willing to take me back anytime. They're always like, you should move back home. Because I mean, 99% of my family lives in that small town in California. Like we're all there, which I love that growing up. But my mom and dad are always like, you can always move back here. You can always work for your Uncle Mike Roofing. You can always do this, that. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do that because, I would love to go back home. I'd love to see my family. But to me, it would be like, okay, I failed in life so much. Now I have to pretty much just erase the last 3 years of my life because I didn't get anywhere. I wasted it all. And I have to go back home and pretty much just start all over again and be that kid that lives with their parents.
Right. Yeah. You move away from your parents. I have a lot of family that I moved away from, right? My mom's in North Dakota. That kind of family, they want you to move back, right? But there's a box there that you're in. It's like a cage. You're trapped in this small world of this small town that you grew up in. And that's all you got there. Of course, we have access to the internet, so nobody can have any excuse for why they're not doing anything. But they want you back there so bad, but it's just like, that's a cage that you have to go back to. It's like your family doesn't want bad for you by wanting you to come back to California,
they love
obviously. But they want you back, you're their boy, you're their son. But it's like in your head, they can't see how much of a cage it is to you to be back there, not because of them, but just because of the world that they live in, right? You can come back and work for Uncle Mike's Roofing, okay? But then you're just keeping it in the family. You're not blazing your own trail. You're just like, oh yeah, Uncle Mike, it's payday. Give me a check.
I just I think every man. What are you doing? I can't hear. What are you doing?
put the headset on.
What are you doing?
Nothing.
Oh my gosh, bro.
What do you mean?
This is what you sounded like.
You sound like a bitch.
Anyways, continue.
I think every man needs to we were talking about the first part of every man's life, he needs to struggle. What are you?
Nothing. What were you saying?
Everyone needs to be thirsty and freaking go to Africa. But
What?
that's where you get thirsty. Anyways, the first part of every man's life, he needs to suffer like we were talking about. He needs to actually go through hardships in his lifetime. And then
Just starting from scratch. Like men need to start from scratch.
Yeah, but then the second part is they need to feel that they've been successful in life by doing something, like starting a business and making a successful business. And so just going back to your parents and whatever, it's like after if you tried all these things and you go back, or you just go to a new place and you're like, yeah, screw this and go back, it's like, how are you gonna feel good about yourself?
Right. There's no fulfillment in that. It's the
Yeah.
same thing as having everything handed down to you.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't end up with any fulfillment. And of course, there's exceptions to having things handed down to you, like having weight put on your shoulders along with the things that were handed down to you, such as Barron Trump's situation, right? But to have everything handed to you or to quit what you were trying to do, what you set out in life to be, quit trying to be that person, there's no fulfillment in that, and that just leads to a life of basically depression. That's how everyone ends up with this fucking clinical depression. The reason that people end up with this depression that's almost like they can't shake it, they can't get away from it, is because they've spent their whole life quitting. And when you do that, you end up with all this sadness and all this unfulfillment that follows you around for the rest of your life. That's hard to get away from unless you go back and you do something great with your life, because now it's just like, what do I have in life? I've got stacked up wins, or if I got stacked up, I quit, or everything was handed to me. What do you have stacked up again? What corner are you in? And what corner is stacked full of, I did this? Is it I quit or I didn't quit? And now I'm fulfilled. Because, I mean, the only thing I could think of that could give people this depression that never goes away is just being unfulfilled, never doing what they set out to do because they quit.